I do not own the rights to this music. Hello, and welcome to Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron, Sunday School lesson for Sunday, November the 9th, 2025. Our reference material for the Sunday School Summary is based upon the International Sunday School Lesson Series as published by the Sunday School Publishing Board. In the Fall 2025 Lesson Series, we are discussing and exploring how God directed and guided the people of Israel through the use of prophets. And the lesson series covers the prophecy of the prophets Isaiah, Jeremiah, and the prophet Ezekiel, and we are studying the prophet Ezekiel in today's lesson. The title of our 10th lesson comes from Unit 3 of the Fall 2025 Lesson Series, and it's titled, We Have Fallen and We Can't Get Up. And of course, it's the children of Israel and the fall of Jerusalem in today's lesson. The key verse comes from 2 Kings chapter 24, verse 20, and it reads, It was because of the Lord's anger that all this happened to Jerusalem and Judah, and in the end he thrust them from his presence, and that is, he thrust the children of Israel from his presence. The title of today's lesson from 2 Kings continues the history of the children of Israel after the rule of King David, when Israel split into two kingdoms upon the death of King Solomon, a northern kingdom called Israel and a southern kingdom called Judah, which included Jerusalem. Now, Israel experienced a spiritual decline of temple worship that led to idolatry and division until the reign of King Josiah, who followed the covenants, repaired the temple, and revived temple worship. After his death, the revival of temple worship and restoration of the covenant relationship with God again lapsed, and Israel experienced another cycle of spiritual decline and again drifted into idolatry worship as a result of foreign influences due to its alliances. In response to these conditions, God called the prophet Jeremiah to prophesy and warn Israel of God's impending divine judgment in response to the idolatry, social injustices, and moral decay. Jeremiah's prophecy of submission to Babylon as God's chosen instrument of God's divine judgment was rejected, leading up to the reign of King Zedekiah, which brings us to today's lesson. There are three summary lesson points for today. The cost of failed leadership, and that's from 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 18 through 20. The siege and suffering from 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 1 through 7, and the temple of destruction from 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 8 and 9. The passages for today's lesson revolve around the key words faith and wisdom. And we know that faith is the complete trust, assurance, belief, or confidence in God. It is the faith in the worship of God as opposed to faith in the worship of the temple in today's lesson. Wisdom is the ability to apply experience, knowledge, and understanding to produce good judgment. It is the lack of godly wisdom that led to evil decisions by King Zedekiah in today's lesson. The cost of failed leadership is our first summary point from 2 Kings chapter 24, verses 18 through 20. And these passages discuss the consequences of King Zedekiah's evil decisions. It says that Zedekiah was 21 years old when he came to the throne, and he reigned in Jerusalem for 11 years, and his mother's name was Humatal, who was the daughter of Jeremiah, and she was from Libnah. He did evil in the eyes of the Lord, just as King Jehoiakim had done. And it was because of the Lord's anger that all this happened to Jerusalem and Judah. And in the end, he thrust them from his presence. So he thrust them from his presence by allowing them to go into exile. Siege and suffering is our second summary point from 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 1 through 7. In these passages, we discover the consequences of King Zedekiah's decision in challenging the Babylonian authority. It says, so in the 9th year of King Zedekiah's reign, on the 10th day of the 10th month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, marched against Jerusalem with his whole army, and he set siege to the city. And the city was kept under the siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah's rule. And it says, in the 11th year, by the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine in the city had become so severe that there was no food for the people to eat. And eventually the city walls were breached and the whole army fled, and the Babylonians were surrounding the city, and the Babylonian army pursued the king and overtook him on the plains of Jericho. In the process, the king was separated from his soldiers, and the soldiers scattered, and the king was captured. And he was taken to the king of Babylon for sentence pronouncement. And the sentence was they killed the sons of Zedekiah in his presence before his very eyes, and then they gouged out the eyes of the king, and they bound him with bronze shackles and marched him off to Babylon, the ultimate humiliation. And lastly, they killed the sons of, and then they marched them off to Babylon. Our third and final summary point is from 2 Kings chapter 25, verses 8 and 9. And in these passages, it says, on the 7th day of the 5th month, in the 19th year of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon's rule, Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard of the Babylonian army, who was an official of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem, and he set fire to the temple of the Lord, the royal palace, and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every important building he burned down. So they had to place their faith in God as opposed to their faith in the temple after the destruction of the temple. This is Brother Ron with the Sunday School Summary for Sunday, November the 9th, 2025. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed week, and we hope to see you next Sunday for another edition of Sunday School Summary with Brother Ron.